The early
This
morning
coffee
air
is
in
wonderful.
downtown Chicago
Thank you,
carried
I'm
the
glad
sharp
you're
scent of
enjoying
rain
it.
as commuters
really am,
hurried along the
thanks.
sidewalks,
Of course.
clutching briefcases and phones. Among them walked a man who looked no different from the rest: simple jeans, worn brown jacket, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. No one spared him a second glance. No one knew that beneath the disguise was Daniel Hayes, one of America's most successful tech billionaires. Daniel wasn't there for publicity or profit that morning. He had built a reputation for secretly visiting small businesses before investing in them. He believed numbers on paper never told the full story. To truly understand a company, you had to see how it treated its employees, how it handled customers, and whether integrity lived behind the counter. He pushed open the door of a small neighborhood cafe tucked between a bookstore and a laundromat. A soft bell chimed as he entered. The place was warm and inviting, filled with the comforting aroma of roasted coffee beans and freshly baked pastries. Indie music hummed softly in the background. Behind the counter moved a young black waitress named Maya. She balanced multiple orders with impressive speed, greeting customers with genuine warmth despite the hectic morning rush. Her apron was neatly pressed, but her shoes showed signs of long hours. There was quiet determination in her movements. Daniel stepped forward when it was his turn. "Just a black coffee, please," he said calmly. Maya offered a polite smile. "Sure thing. That'll be $2.50. Her voice carried both exhaustion and kindness. Daniel noticed how she thanked each customer sincerely, even the impatient ones who barely looked at her. He also noticed something else: the manager standing near the register, watching the staff more closely than the customers. His eyes lingered with suspicion, not leadership. Daniel paid in cash and chose a small table near the window. From there, he observed everything. He saw how Maya helped an elderly man carry his tray to a seat. He saw her fix a mistaken order without complaint. He also saw the manager quietly pocket something from the register when he thought no one was looking. Interesting, Daniel thought. This cafe had appeared promising in financial reports. Profits were steady, customer reviews were glowing. But numbers didn't show tension. They didn't show fear. And they didn't show integrity. Maya soon approached with his coffee. She placed it gently in front of him, careful not to spill a drop. "Anything else for you?" she asked softly. Daniel looked up, meeting her eyes for the first time. There was intelligence there, awareness. She seemed to be studying him just as carefully as he studied the room. "No, thank you," he replied. For a brief second, something unspoken passed between them. Maya hesitated slightly, as if considering something, then gave a small nod and returned to the counter. Daniel wrapped his hands around the warm cup, pretending to focus on his phone while continuing to observe. He could sense there was more happening beneath the surface of this cozy cafe. Something wasn't right, and he had a feeling this visit would turn out to be far more important than he originally planned. Daniel let the warmth of the coffee cup settle into his palms as he sat by the window, appearing relaxed but internally alert. The cafe's rhythm continued around him, espresso machines hissing, customers chatting, chairs scraping softly against the floor. Yet his focus remained sharp. Years of building companies had trained him to notice the smallest details. And this place had details that didn't add up. When he lifted the cup to take his first sip, something unusual caught his attention. A folded napkin was tucked neatly beneath the saucer. He hadn't seen Maya place it there. Slowly, without drawing attention, he unfolded it under the table. The handwriting was steady but urgent. "Please don't trust the manager. He's stealing from this place. I'm scared to speak up." Daniel felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather outside. His eyes instinctively moved toward the counter. The manager stood near the register, arms crossed, watching the staff like a guard rather than a leader. Customers smiled at him politely, unaware of anything wrong. Daniel read the note again. The message was simple, but the courage behind it was not. Whoever wrote this was taking a serious risk. He looked toward Maya. She was wiping down a table now, her movements calm but slightly tense. She didn't look at him, but he noticed the way her fingers tightened around the cloth. She knew he had read it. Daniel's undercover visits were usually straightforward. He would observe operations, talk casually with staff, and later decide whether the business deserved his investment. He preferred to remain anonymous, helping companies grow without seeking recognition. But this note shifted everything. This was no longer just about profit margins or customer satisfaction. It was about honesty. About someone brave enough to speak when silence would have been safer. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small notebook, something he always carried. Pretending to jot down random thoughts, he carefully wrote a single line on a clean page, "I'm listening." When Maya approached again to refill his water, he gently slid the folded paper toward the edge of the table. "Thank you," he said quietly, meeting her eyes with calm reassurance. She hesitated for a second, then picked up the note along with his empty glass. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure someone might hear it. In the kitchen area, away from curious eyes, she unfolded the paper. When she read the words, her shoulders relaxed slightly. For the first time in weeks, she didn't feel completely alone. Back in the dining area, Daniel continued observing. Within minutes, he noticed the manager remove cash from the register during a busy moment and slip it into his jacket pocket. Quick, practiced, confident no one would challenge him. But someone had. Daniel's mind began forming a plan. He could confront the manager immediately, but that would expose his identity and possibly cost Maya her job before proof was secured. No, this required strategy. He finished his coffee slowly, thinking carefully. When he stood to leave, he placed a generous tip on the table, far more than the coffee cost. Not to show wealth, but to send a message of quiet support. As he walked toward the door, he paused briefly near the counter. "I'll be back tomorrow," he said casually. The manager barely nodded. But Maya understood. And tomorrow, everything was going to change. The next morning, the cafe felt different. Maya sensed it the moment she tied her apron. She barely slept the night before, replaying every possible outcome in her mind. What if the stranger never came back? What if the manager discovered the note? What if she had just risked her only stable job for nothing? At exactly 8:15 a.m., the door chimed. Daniel Hayes walked in again, dressed the same as before, simple jacket, baseball cap, calm expression. But this time, he wasn't alone. Two sharply dressed men and a woman followed him inside. They didn't look like regular customers. The manager straightened immediately. "Good morning, sir," he said, forcing a polite smile. "Table for 4. Daniel removed his cap slowly. "No," he said evenly. "I think we'll stand." Something in his tone silenced the room. Conversations faded. Even the espresso machine seemed quieter. The two men stepped forward and presented identification badges. The woman opened a slim briefcase and placed documents on the counter. "My name is Daniel Hayes," he continued calmly. "Majority shareholder of Hayes Community Ventures. As of this morning, this cafe is officially under review for full acquisition." The manager's face drained of color. You own this place," he stammered. "I will," Daniel replied. "After today." He nodded slightly toward one of the men beside him. "We've been reviewing financial discrepancies. Cash shortages. Inventory mismatches. Surveillance gaps." The manager attempted a laugh. "That must be some mistake." "It isn't," Daniel interrupted gently. "And we have video confirmation from yesterday." The cafe fell completely silent. Maya stood frozen near the counter, her heart racing. She hadn't known he was the owner. She hadn't known he was a billionaire. She had only known he seemed different, observant, thoughtful. The second man placed printed images on the counter. Clear screenshots from security footage showed the manager removing cash from the register and slipping it into his jacket. "There's an explanation," the manager began. "Yes," Daniel said. "There is. It's called theft." Within minutes, local authorities, already notified, arrived to question the manager. He was escorted outside under stunned whispers from customers and staff. When the door finally closed behind him, the tension in the room dissolved into shocked silence. Daniel turned toward the employees. "I'm not here to shut this place down," he said clearly. "I'm here to fix it." His gaze found Maya. "Honesty is rare," he continued. "And courage is even rarer." Maya felt every eye in the cafe shift toward her. She swallowed nervously. "You protected this business when it couldn't protect itself," Daniel said. "That matters." He stepped closer, lowering his voice slightly so only she could hear the next words. "Thank you for trusting me." Maya blinked back unexpected tears. "I was just doing what was right." "That's exactly why it matters," Daniel replied. He turned back to the staff. "Effective immediately, wages will be reviewed and increased. We'll implement transparent accounting systems. And this cafe will stay open, stronger than before." A quiet ripple of relief moved through the room. As customers slowly resumed their conversations, Daniel looked around the cafe once more. Yesterday, he had walked in as a stranger evaluating numbers. Today, he stood as an owner protecting people. And as he met Maya's steady gaze across the counter, he knew this investment wasn't just financial. It was personal. Because sometimes, the smallest note can change everything.